Matt didn't propose, but still found love with Rachael on the Bachelor finale.
I want to leave here with you. And I want to commit to you and to every day, building on what we started here.
But on After the Final Rose, they explain why things fell apart over her past racially insensitive actions.
It's heartbreaking and it's devastating. It's just disappointing.
Plus, Matt's BFF and Bachelor Nation's Tyler Cameron gives us an update on how Matt is doing.
I think he still believes in love, I think he still is gonna find love. But it's definitely a whole growing and learning experience. He pushed himself a ton. He got himself very vulnerable and opened up and learned what good that can do for you.
We've got that plus so much more on today's Here for the Right Reasons.
Hey guys, Christina Garibaldi here with Us Weekly Associate Editor Sarah Heron. Sarah, you are reporting from the Nemacolin Resort. I love this so much.
Yes, Christina, I have been here for the big finale weekend. I got to meet Matt's skydiving instructor. I went on a helicopter. I met the donkey that was on one of the episodes. It has been a journey just like this 3-hour finale was. So much to unpack.
So much to unpack. And I'm so excited that you got to have the Bachelor experience. And didn't I see a picture of you with Pilot Pete as well?
Yes, there was an unexpected Pilot Pete cameo. I spoke to him. He's doing well post Kelley's split.
Good.
He has no interest in going to paradise anytime soon because he's still trying to recover from his whirlwind, but the scar is healing beautifully.
Yes, literally and figuratively.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
All right. Well, let's break down. Obviously, there was a lot to unpack from last night's episode and After the Final Rose. But let's focus on the finale first before we get to the After the Final Rose and quickly recap that.
Yeah, so we have to start with Matt's mom and brother and how it really just escalated so quickly and how it ended his relationship with Michelle.
Right. It was like, well, she's like, you're not ready to get engaged. And then like a light bulb went off and he's like, you're right. I'm not. What am I doing here?
It literally felt like his mom, like he realized what being the Bachelor meant in that moment. And like, I like Matt. I think he's a great guy. And I think we've said several times, he's almost too good of a guy for doing this show. Like it doesn't really feel like it was him to try to figure this out. He wanted to find love, but all the process of having to break up with so many women, like it was hard for him. You could tell.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like in this moment, like you said, a light bulb went off. And I think his mom liked both Michelle and Rachael, but then their conversation just took such a turn. And he was like, you're right, I can't do this. And he had it in his head that he was not going to propose.
Right. I wonder if like his mom was crying so much because she's like, my son is about to make a huge mistake. Like
kind of Barb vibes, honestly, but not in a little less, more kind of sentimental way and not of a like dramatic way.
Right.
But I mean, I think it's also like you see your family and you remember that you've been living this fantasy fake world and it like kicks you into high gear because Chris Harrison even was like, yes, last week you were like ready to pick out a ring and now you seem terrified. So I think everyone was confused, including Matt.
Oh, and totally including Matt. And poor Michelle, she was blindsided by this breakup. She did not see this coming. Poor girl gave him Mr. and Mrs. James's jerseys. And like my heart just broke for her because I think she felt that she was going to be it at the end.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's always some element of blindside or shock for the runner-up because obviously if you make it that far, like you get in your head and you're like, oh, maybe it is me. And you probably start to get excited, even if the viewer is like, there's no way it's you. Which this one, I mean, we kind of knew it was going to be Rachael based off everything we were hearing, but I really liked the connection between Matt and Michelle. And there was like a little part of me holding out hope because that breakup really was sad. And then after the Final Rose, when she called him out for not giving her closure, I was like, oh damn.
That surprised me a lot too, because I mean, yes, it was a lot for him to deal with. He's trying to figure out his feelings for Rachael while dealing with the breakup with Michelle, but give the girl a couple minutes.
I mean, that scene of her just like crying in the hallway was heartbreaking.
So heartbreaking. But, like we said, while Matt didn't propose, he did confess his love to Rachael. And I mean, based on, the conversations that he had with his mom, it wasn't really a huge shock that he didn't pick out that Neil Lane ring.
I know. How funny was it that like Neil Lane had to quarantine at this very hotel and they were like, you still have to get film with him, pretend you're going to propose. And then he like picked out that, in my opinion, not great looking pear-shaped diamond. And I was like, I'm glad no one had to see that.
Totally.
But yeah, I wonder if Rachael was thinking he was going to propose or not. Because she almost looked not disappointed, but their whole interaction like at the lake was a little confusing. I think maybe she talked for a long time about how she was feeling, and she was rambling, and they hadn't seen each other during the day. And then he kind of took a minute to respond, and I think maybe she thought she was getting dumped.
I think so too. You could tell in her eyes there was like panic going on, being like, I just laid it all out there. He is going to send me home. Because I don't think at that point she knew, right? She didn't know that Michelle was gone. So
I don't think so.
Yeah. And then after he canceled their date, I would be thinking the same thing. I'd be like, I'm packing my bags right now. Like,
I know the handwritten letter from Matt is not so comforting when you probably realize it looks like all the other ones that were written by Chris Harrison.
Right. Oh, that producer that has the perfect handwriting. I love it.
Yeah, great handwriting.
I mean, in that moment, not talking about what happened after the show, in that moment, I mean, I felt like they were a cute couple, and it seemed like they had genuine feelings for each other.
I totally agree. I think this whole season has been kind of weird to watch because of everything that's been playing out in the news. But I think I totally agree. I think he was so relieved, and there was a sense of like comfort with each other. And when they were like embracing at the end, like I was like, oh, damn, this is gonna fall apart so fast. But it made me sad. The whole thing was a heartbreaking turn, and that's kind of where it started. I mean, Michelle was sad too, but like the glimmer of hope lasted like 30 seconds.
Right. Yeah. Because then we rolled right on into after the final rose. So let's get right to it, because that's basically our cringe of the week was the entire episode, because obviously from Michelle, like we said, her conversation with Matt to, them unpacking all of the stuff that surrounded Rachael the past few months. It was a lot to take in.
It was a lot to take in. The silence, the uncomfortable silences, which I think was the point, but it was still so hard to watch. And again, I guess that is the point of, all these conversations are so tough to have. Emmanuel Acho is the author of Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man for a reason. He, I thought, did a great job trying to lead this conversation that, I mean, it was a very difficult task for everyone involved. And I thought he did an amazing job.
I do too. I thought he did a really, really good job. I think he kind of ask those tough conversations, let those moments breathe uncomfortably. Because, as a host, like sometimes you want to jump in and have them keep talking, but I thought it actually like gave a very dramatic effect to the show. But I thought he did a really, really good job. And I think a lot of people on social media agreed as well. They were like, he was the perfect person for these conversations and to host this special.
Yeah, it was a good balance, I think, of like Bachelor type questions and conversations about racism and everything that has played out. Right. How did you think Rachael did?
I think she handled herself, I think, in the best way that she possibly could. I think she said that she did the work, and she admitted that what she did, she didn't think was wrong at the time. It never even occurred to her. And I mean, at least she was honest about it. And let's actually take a look at what she had to say. Take a look.
I'm not going to sit here and say that I didn't know any better, because I could have easily asked myself those questions. I never took the time to make that connection, because if I would have taken the time, I easily could have understood what was wrong with it.
It's a hard thing for her to, have to talk about and try to, be apologetic and be honest and know that she's going to get backlash pretty much no matter what she says. But I almost like needed more. Everything that was happening, I was like, I still have so many questions, even though I wanted to look away and I couldn't look away. And I still had so many questions. But it really felt like their decision to break up was certainly Matt's idea. It felt like she must have said something to him that he couldn't shake, or the way she reacted initially or something. That's really like what it came down to.
I think it kind of was her ignorance that she just didn't understand that this was an issue. And that when she said, she's like, when Emmanuel was like, were you afraid that these pictures were going to come forward? And she's like, no, I actually never even thought about it, because it never even crossed her mind. Because I mean, like she said, it's not an excuse, but like where she grew up and where she went to school, that was normal, even though it shouldn't be in 2018. It's the craziest thing from normal. But, that's just the bubble that she was living in. And I think that probably is what bothered Matt the most, is that she didn't see a problem in it.
Yeah. And then he, didn't feel like it was his job to have to teach her. And he was very candid about that. I think we have a clip of that too.
And it broke my heart, because this is the last conversation I thought we'd be having. I didn't sign up to have this conversation. And I knew that I had to take a step back for you to put in that work that you outlined that you needed to do. And that's something you got to do on your own. And that's why we can't be in a relationship.
Yeah, I mean,
it's hard to, this is Matt's experience, and obviously we can't speak for him. We don't know what that's like, and I think he did a great job trying to articulate it, and he didn't want to throw Rachael under the bus, just, because he did love her at some point. He has love for her, but at the same time, like, he's been put in a horrible position.
God.
And it's you could tell that he was trying to choose his words carefully, but he can't hold back. Like, this is his experience.
Yeah, I mean, this is how he feels. And like you said, talk about the pressure. Not only was he the first Black Bachelor, and he talked about this on the show, but, the amount of weight that he had to carry this entire season, everything going on the show and off the show. And for somebody that's never even been a part of Bachelor Nation, it's a lot. For him not to have a breakdown after all this, kudos to him.
I know. I feel like Matt James, I mean, last June was when they announced him this whirlwind that he's been on. I feel like he's going to run far away from the reality TV show.
Seriously. He needs a vacation in the worst way.
And not in Mexico.
Not in Mexico. I feel like this might be the last we see of Matt James in Bachelor Nation. I feel like he's probably going to want to take a serious step back from here.
Maybe if they do like the summer games or winter games of it all, and he can come on and just like do some activities. But like, I don't even know if he would do that. I can't wait to find out what he really thinks of all.
I do too. And I mean, there's pretty much no room for reconciliation either. It seemed like, when Emmanuel asked if the door was still open, he pretty much closed it.
Yeah, that was an awkward final last embrace.
Oh my God, the final embrace.
Yeah. But then Rachael went on Instagram and was like still calling him the love of her life. So I don't know if that's her way of like trying to get people to understand, like, she really did love him, and this has been hard for her too, and kind of not get people on her side, or if she's just still so like blindsided and in love with him. Like, it's kind of a crazy thing, and maybe she wants that door to be open and whatever, but I can't imagine them coming back from that.
I can't imagine it either. And I mean, he's very supportive of her and doing the work and growing and learning from this situation, and I think he'll always have her back in that regard. But as for a romantic relationship, I think that ship has sailed.
Well, what did Tyler Cameron say about how Matt's doing? What do we know?
Right. So I recently caught up with Tyler just after the finale, and he gave an update on how Matt is doing. Take a look. Obviously, Tyler, I know that you and Matt are really good friends. I mean, in your opinion, how has this experience changed him and his view on love?
I think it's made him grow up a lot. I think he still believes in love. I think he still is going to find love. But it's definitely a whole growing learning experience. He pushed himself a ton. He got himself very vulnerable and opened up and learned what good that can do for you, you know? So I think it was a great learning experience for him. Everything's a lesson in life. I think this was a giant lesson for him.
Have you talked to him since last night, and how is he feeling?
Yeah, I talk to him all the time. I talk to him every day. I talked to him this morning.
Yeah.
Good morning, Matt. He's going through it. He's doing good. We just got to take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Clay, how did you think that Matt handled himself? Obviously, he was kind of thrown into this and, was never really a part of Bachelor Nation. He said last night he had a ton of pressure put on him, which imaginably so. I mean, in your opinion, how did you think he handled himself?
No, I thought Matt did an amazing job. And, Matt's storyline really resonated with me. I didn't get to watch the whole season, but I watched some of it. And, Matt comes from a similar situation as I do. My parents were never married. We're never really together, and I never really saw that relationship. I saw, a lot of bad relationships growing up, and I saw what rushing into things could do. And it was funny, not funny, but it was interesting seeing Matt going through that, because those are the same feelings I had during my journey on Bachelor in Paradise, and just of like, let's take things slow and let's leave here and explore each other and learn more about each other and make sure that we're making the right decision and doing the best things we can for us. So I thought Matt did an amazing job, and I know it's tough. It's tough how it ended and everything with him and Rachael. I'm sure they'll be friends in the future, and they'll both learn and grow from the experience.
Definitely. I mean, Tyler, how were you there for him during his breakup? And what was his mindset like during the past few months? Because I can't imagine. It
was definitely tough, but like I said, I always support Matt. Mm-hmm. I'm always a sounding board for him. If he's got to, speak on something, I'm here for him. And he does the same for me. And that's what brothers do for each other. Mm-hmm. And so he's been working hard.
Yeah. You think he's ready to get back in dating, or is he going to take a little time off?
I'm sure he's gonna take some time. I'm sure he needs to figure himself out and get his mind right, and he'll be ready to go. But we'll see.
Yeah. Before things came to light about Rachael, did you think that she was the one for Matt?
I mean, I never got to meet her, so I can't really comment on that. But they seemed happy, and it, like you said, it was like a honeymoon. Afterwards, still, and that's easy to be happy in, but it's still. Time is, a test, and so I think what happened had to happen.
Always good to have your bestie in your corner.
Matt always will have Tyler Cameron. We can all sleep well at night knowing that they'll be okay.
Seriously, they'll be okay. All right, well, moving on to our Where Are They Now segment, and we will tell you exactly where Michelle Young and Katie Thurston are headed, and that is to find love as our brand new Bachelorettes.
2 Bachelorettes, yes. Double the roses, double the drama. I wish they had brought them out earlier. I feel like that was such a weird rush thing at the end.
It was such a weird rush thing. It was like, all right, all this drama, all these like emotions, and now surprise, Bachelorettes. But at least we ended on a high note, and it seems I still don't know if I really need 2 seasons of The Bachelorette. It's a lot, but I think that they're 2 good picks.
Yeah, I think this all comes down to The Bachelor does like to, end things on a positive note. We're moving forward. This show has been on for a very long time. There's been a lot of ups and downs. This season was controversial and upsetting, and, but they want to move forward. And I love Michelle. I think she's going to be a great Bachelorette. I think it'll be good for her that she had time, because a lot of times that quick transition between, being the runner-up to filming your own season can be really hard. We saw that with Peter still trying to get over Hannah Brown last year. Like it can be tricky. So I think it'll be good. I know she's a teacher, wants to finish out the school season. Katie, I'm just indifferent about. I think they never really pick someone that disappoints me. Like they know what they're doing. They can usually work it out. But I do think Katie will be a really interesting dynamic with Kaitlyn Bristowe and Tayshia.
Yes, I am. I'm very excited. As we know, news broke this week that Chris Harrison will not be back to host this upcoming season of The Bachelorette, and Tayshia and Kaitlyn will be stepping in. And yeah, I think they're going to bring a lot of fun to it. I think that it's going to be a really good time. And like you said, I'm kind of indifferent about Katie as well, but I was indifferent with Hannah Brown before that season started, and she ended up being one of my favorite Bachelorettes.
Sure.
So, who knows how it's going to play out, and then we don't know about Chris Harrison. We don't know if he's going to come back for Paradise, if he's going to come back for Michelle's season of The Bachelorette. That's kind of still all up in the air as well.
I know, by having him do the voiceovers.
Yes, it was so weird.
After Final Rose, that made me think that he's still clearly very much involved. Like he is a producer of the show. So did he produce that special? And is he still in these conversations? And my gut tells me that they're going to bring him back.
I think so too. Oh, definitely. Yes. The voiceovers definitely was like, okay, that's a little jarring that they're having him kind of voice this. I thought maybe Emmanuel would. And it was interesting that they didn't really touch on Chris at all during the After the Final Rose special. Yes, Michelle did. Who knows? They might have, and they kind of edited it out. But it was interesting to me that they didn't really talk too much about that.
Yeah, before we go, can I just say that there's still so much I feel like they can show us. I saw pictures of Michelle and Rachael talking on After the Final Rose. We didn't see any of that.
Yeah.
I feel like we could have seen a lot more of Matt and Rachael talking about their breakup, and I know it was uncomfortable, and the silences served their purposes, but it was just like, you make us sit through 2 nights After the Final Roses on a yearly basis, and this one only got an hour? I needed more.
No, totally. I feel like they could have made the finale an hour. Like we didn't need all of that. Like we knew it was going to happen. And then made the After the Final Rose a 2-hour special, because, all these uncomfortable and important conversations, I feel like that they could have used that to serve their purpose. I don't know. It's like The Bachelor has had so many missteps this season, and they could have kind of maybe just kind of put it all out there. And I don't know. They kind of misstepped on this one as well.
Yeah, I feel like they could have ended last week's episode with this conversation with his parent, with his mom and his brother, and then on the cliffhanger of will he even pick anyone versus what I don't know. The whole thing was edited strange to me all season, as you know. I feel like I've been saying that nonstop, and this was no exception. So I should have expected it, but I feel like there's just still so many questions I have about the breakup and the new seasons of The Bachelorette, and there's just so much we could have talked about, but instead, here we are.
Here we are, but we made it. We are done with season 25 of The Bachelor. It was dramatic. It was uncomfortable. It was awkward, but it is over for now. But, I think like we said, these conversations are still going to happen. We're going to see a lot of changes coming up in the Bachelor franchise, and we will be here to kind of recap it all for you as it goes down.
Oh my God. I can't wait. As much as I say, like, I'm so happy the season's over, like, I'm going to miss it next week.
I am going to miss it next week. I totally am. Well, Sarah, who do you have on your podcast for this week?
We're going to do a big breakdown about Emma Colin and that whole situation, which is going to be very exciting. And also have some time with Brie, who we saw say goodbye to last week on the show. And I'm very excited to get her take on everything and how she felt watching the finale and Matt not being ready to propose. And, I have 1,000 questions for her as always.
Definitely. Well, I can't wait to hear it. And make sure to listen to Sarah's podcast here for the right reasons. Thank you guys so much for tuning in each and every week to our Bachelor recap. We will see you when The Bachelorette picks back up sometime this summer. And we will recap every single episode, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So, Sarah, thank you so much as always.
Thank you, Christina. I'm so excited for a little break and then get right back into it.
Right back into it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching.
Bye.